evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Coa Sports Warrior Race. We are out on the Sanderson Sequoias for one lap out here today. I'm Nathan Garrett with Community Live. Now, we are doing these broadcasts in partnership with Coa Sports, and Coa Sports is a B-sport coaching company and esports company serving and spanning 35 countries worldwide. It's been absolutely amazing bringing them on board, and they've got a ton that they are bringing to the Zwift community, obviously, with these races every Thursday and Friday. But their coaches are full-time professionals with national accreditations and years of experience. You can definitely go check them out over at coasports.com.au. They also have a very well-known podcast. Make sure to go check out the Coa Sports podcast on all of the spots. I believe it is going to be iTunes as well as Apple. And I might have missed one or two. The guys will let you know as soon as we get on over to them. Now, the talent that are coming on board with us is going to be Tim Ballantyne. He's going to be lead on this talent commentating today. He's a coach as well as 2 times Kona finisher, 5 times 70.3 champion. Greg McDermott is going to be co-commentary with him. He's a coach, 5 times Ironman as well as Ride Around Oz. And we also got Ken Cross on board as one of their coaches as well. So let's go ahead and head right on over to the boys, though, coming out of the lands down under as we get into the race here in just a few moments.
Per kilo by Sproul.
Jason's coming back. Chris is coming back over the top.
G'day everybody and good morning from Down Under. I'm of course Tim Ballantyne and I'm joined this morning by Greg McDermott. Welcome, mate.
Hey guys, good to be here.
Yeah, we've got a stacked paddock tonight, and of course Kent Cross in special comments off camera, but going to be bringing us a lot of the great stats, pulling off Zwift Power and some of the things that we've learned over the last sort of 3 to 4 months here on the Coa Sports Warrior Race. So no doubt the riders are ready for action and probably on their way out onto the course. So we might throw to them and let's see some action as we'll wind our way through the early parts of the Sand and Sequoia circuit. So they're 20 seconds into the race tonight, so some nice timing there, Greg. We've got nearly 150 in the start line tonight, so we've got some big names, big teams, and looking for plenty of action as we wind our way up Titans Grove, of course.
Yeah, some huge hitters in the field, Tim, this evening, this morning, or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We've got defending his title 3 weeks in a row, Luke Gilbert out of Canada. And we have Josh Harrison, the Snagglepuss, Jim McQuaid, JPV, Ivany, Alex Side. Huge field, mate.
Yeah, Snagglepuss across from Cryogen, I believe, and Alex Side there with the newly formed esports team. I think Dropouts, is it? I think that is pretty new.
He did mention to me it was a trial, but the trial might have been extended a little bit longer than what he thought.
That's
so,
good. See a lot more teams popping up, and certainly the TDZ that, of course, Nathan's been really heavily involved with as well, and OJ Borg, they're doing a fantastic job at a Zwift Live as well. And, it's been great to see a lot of the teams getting involved and a lot of banter as well, and a lot of rivalries, I think, starting to build out here on the Zwift circuit.
Yeah, Tim, let's cross over to Kent just to get a bit of a rundown. It's a bit of a different circuit, as every Zwift circuit is actually, but just some of the ins and outs of what to look for as we watch the broadcast wherever you are in the world.
Cool, thanks
over
guys.
Kappa.
Thanks, Greg. So back at the Sand and Sequoia, which is, I believe, Tim's favourite course to race on. It's a bit of an interesting one because it's sort of split into 2 halves. So it's about 22 kilometres in length. Yet you've got the first 10K sort of sitting nice and flat, which you see a lot of the time. The group just settles in and really finds their feet and, just gets ready to prepare for what's going to come ahead, because you've got, after this 10K lead in through the desert, you hit the climbs of Titans Grove. So it pretty much changes and you start heading into a series of around 3 climbs with one sort of major one in the middle, which is the COM, 2.6 Ks in length and average gradient of 2.2%. But you'll find that there's a lot of kickers in there that will catch people out, and if you're not ready for that jump up in elevation, you'll you'll definitely lose the group. So you'll find a lot of people like Alex Side, a regular who likes to push the pace up there. You'll see the group will start to split up as they come back down. And again, downhill, you've still got to keep the power on, otherwise the group splits up towards the flat. And then typically you see pretty early sprint finishes towards the line.
Good
Awesome,
stuff,
mate.
Kent. Yeah,
It's,
we've got some little, not a breakaway, but certainly some leg stretching happening here in the early parts of this Sand and Sequoia circuits. We saw some big, obviously Snagglepuss in there from Cryogen. Big response there from Pozzolini. Alex Side in their response. He doesn't certainly like to give too much rope up the road. Look at that peloton, nice and stretched out there. I'd say some legs just starting to feel it. It's almost about a 5 second from the front to the back of this main front group.
Yeah, they're stretched right out
And
here.
you might see a little split there. Sometimes you see that where a rider in the middle of the pack not so much gets lazy, but just forgets to pay attention. There's that little break. You do like to see that. So certainly from a coaching point of view, if you are in a big stretched out pack, you don't really want to be in the back half because you really are relying on a lot of the riders in front of you, and you don't need to worry about crashes, of course, in Zwift. So in the real world, you like to push yourself forward as well, but certainly even here, you got Ossenbrink moving through the pack there on that Tron bike, just sitting third wheel with, of course, we've got Ratton Firewalker off the front.
That's a big
Maybe
one.
we need to shorten these names just to make the commentators' jobs a little bit easier. But there's that split in the pack.
Tim. So front group now of about 50 to 60 riders now pulled away from that second group, and I doubt that they will see them again. We saw this in the event last night as well, where there was a group of about 20 to 30 off the front, and you just start to see that time just drift out and out and out. So if you're in that second pack and watching, now's the time to drop about 6 to 7 watts a kilo to try and bridge back up. Otherwise, you won't be seeing these guys again. We've got Vivian there. Hartley just coming across the gap. He'll have no trouble getting back in there. Vivian, we've got Gravel, Lemire, Ryan from the draft team as well. They'll possibly come back across, but there's a bit of navel gazing going on in the front group. We might have another group come back as well.
I think that elastic band snapped for these 5 riders here. 2 in the middle in a bit of no man's land. They'll need to put down either a really solid 60-second effort to bridge that back, or sayonara to the front group. And we've got that attrition now here already on the Sands part. That early attack while Kent was running us through the course, there are some big numbers. We see numbers up 700-800 watts in the first 2 minutes of the race. So interesting to see.
Yeah, there's always this course, Tim. You said it last time we were out here on Sand and Sequoia. You can get a bit lazy as a rider and feel comfortable with sitting in the group, and then all of a sudden you reach next to you or down to your bike to have a sip on the old bit on or wipe the face of sweat, and all of a sudden you're 4 bike lengths off the back. So definitely an area to stay alert in, but certainly not going to determine the race. It's sort of one of those cliche things where it's a point in the event here where you can definitely lose the race, but you will not win it.
Yeah. Also with these one-lap style or these shorter circuits, you see typically us here at Koa Sports, we do like to kind of keep the racing around 30 minutes just for that maximum training effect. We work with a lot of athletes that are short of time and want to get best bang for buck on the trainer, so we certainly like to run a shorter race. So what happens is they become a lot more dynamic where, if you have, say, a 5-lap course or a 6-7 lap course of, say, up to 40, 50 kilometres, there's not all that much in the middle parts, maybe a few attacks here and here, but here you really can't get caught napping, even in these earlier sections. So up the road, we've got a little bit of terrain change, Kent, coming up, I believe.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, about halfway through the first part of the flat section, so you've got another about 5k to go before they reach the climbs. But there's still some little pinches in here. You'll see up in the top 1%, 2%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but like Greg said before, if you're napping and you miss that, it's very easy for, again, the group to spread out, as you start to see here a little bit of not a big split, but it's starting to appear.
Yeah, just to engage the community. So if you are watching live, of course, we'll try and get to some of those comments as we filter through on Facebook, Twitch, and of course YouTube. But you'll notice when Kent starts talking, I'm happy to talk to it at the moment, that a little avatar pops up in the bottom left-hand corner. So we're really trying to lift our broadcast here as we push through in the production of Koa Sports. So we're happy to, if you want to engage with us on private message or anything like that, or hit us up on email, just go to our website. We are trying to build our library of talent and riders, particularly for a lot of the teams out there who are looking for a lot more exposure. we're really going to push hard over the next 6 months to build that. We are, of course, learning under the guidance of Nathan, who's been fantastic. But let's try and expand that library and get some green screen action, and then we can really start to highlight some of those unbelievably talented riders out there that we know. But I think that obviously, we've got some ideas here that we really want to push through. So. Yeah, with that said, we'll take a short break and be back in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, that little clip there comes from the place we live, Tim, up on the Sunshine Coast in Australia, and that's our Coal Sports Camp, which we run every year. So if you're interested in coming to a camp, shout out, let us know. Now, speaking of unbelievable athletes, a couple of my friends have joined the race this morning. And,
fantastic.
Quick shout out to the great Tom Morwood, president of ex-president now of the Hills Triathlon Club, one of Australia's biggest triathlon clubs, and another good mate, spotted his name twice in there, Paul McNamara, in the front group. These two guys are new to Zwift, and they are ultra competitive.
So Hills Tri Club is a very, very big tri club in Western Sydney.
Northwestern Sydney, and about 300 members. Very big and running so many events throughout the year. I started my broadcasting career with the great Tom Warwood, by the way, on the mic at the Hills Tri Club.
And you've been downhill since then.
He tried to get through, we never got there. As you see, Paul Mack there, representing the dirt team. He's right off the front and in the group. So
let's highlight some of these riders here in this front pack tonight, or this morning here in Australia. Of course, we've got it's fairly heavily dominated there by the US. We've got a few Japanese flags in there, Greg, as well. But let's highlight some of these riders. I know Mark Dallas Henry typically turns up, really times his sprints really well. Typically when he finishes races, I always find that he's one of those guys that has quite a low watts per kilo, but strikes at the right time. I really admire him as a cyclist here on Zwift, and I think he's actually got the Coa. I actually genuinely didn't pick him out because he had the Coa Sports jersey on, but just someone in there. So we might go through just a couple of his numbers. Greg, if you want to bring it up off Zwift Power, that's the beauty of Zwift Power. You can bring up some numbers, but a really well-rated rider. He's got over 1,000 watts there on his short sprint. He's a good, solid, long sprinter. What's he in the top sort of? He's got an 8.1 watts per kilo over the long sprint. So a race like this, where you come over Titans Grove, he's got enough to hang in there. He's a good time trialist, so he can hang in there over there, not burn too many bickies, but certainly on the flat. If he gets it right, obviously there are some big names in there tonight, but I think that Mark Dallas, I'm going to go with Mark. I think it's Mark, yeah. Mark Dallas Henry is the one to watch tonight. Yeah,
definitely suits the longer sprint. So we've often seen in this event, Tim, that riders will traditionally go from about a kilometre out rather than that short 300-400 metre sprint that we've seen a couple of other races we broadcast as well. So you want to be that long sprinter type. So pushing 8.1 watts a kilo over a minute and a half effort is absolutely huge.
You got anyone else there, Kent, that you think... Gilbert was certainly the one defending champion. Why don't you take through some of the listeners at home, or viewers at home, some of his data and why it is that he seems to be able to separate himself at the right time?
Yeah. Well, Tim, just before I bring up Gilbert, I just wanted to highlight Josh from his name on there is actually Snagglepuss. He raced last week and. I don't know if you watched because you guys were away, but he put a big effort at the end of the race to pull quite a big gap, and for a time he thought that he was going to win.
Don't think a big effort tonight, judging by the look of his avatar. I think he's had some technical issues, but certainly, yeah, that is right.
Yeah, well, not anymore.
But Amado in there, and Trudell, we've obviously seen him before, and Alex Side there on trial, as you say, for his new esports team.
The longest trial in history in esports, I would say. But definitely some good things to look at there. Keep your comments coming. Thanks to Claudia there. Lots of broadcasts coming through on the Zwift Community Live platform, and Nathan working his butt off at the moment, getting so much done. So
you'll start to see the terrain pick up as they come out of this sand section. So they sort sort of take this right-hand turn, riders will start, you'll see that heart rate slowly increase. The terrain will start to jack up, as to say, you'll see in the top right-hand side, that percentage number, it says 0 at the moment. It'll kick upwards of 6% as they wind their way through the early parts of the Titans Grove and they come out of the desert here. Alex Side comes to the front. He always comes to the front when there is a terrain. So 2, 3%. Watch that come up. There's with Alex Side. Some of the numbers top left there.
Now, Tim, 9
700
watts a kilo
watts.
as he pushes straight off the front. And,
big attack.
And a big name in Zwift as well, Jim McQuaid there from the DRFT team coming across to link up there. Expect him to be really involved in this race as well. He's a very highly ranked Zwift rider.
Often these attacks don't stick here, but sometimes when you've been going for 12, 13 minutes just on the flat and you haven't really had a chance to come out of the saddle on your trainer at home, you can just sort of maybe just sort of punch it a little bit for about 30 seconds, stretch the legs out and get ready for, mind you, they put 2 seconds here, but a very big group, you'll think they'll pull that right back any time now.
Well, Tim, I just come in here. They have to be a bit careful because the man who's taken the break at the front, Michael Podsteline, I think I said that right. He has quite a good all-round bit of power, especially on the climb. So, you know, you're talking a medium climber here, but he can hold 431 watts over the climb. So if these people don't bridge a gap, you can expect, well, they have now, but you can expect him to sort of over every sort of pinch we get throughout the Titans comm, you can expect him to put down the hammer.
Starting to stretch out there, Kent. So good view there by Nathan in production there. Just that high view, you can sort of see the group now stretching back. That is starting to hurt a few. And we do see that on this course where it sort of comes down to around 20 riders in that last sort of 3 kilometres as they pop out the back of Titans Grove.
It's certainly the climb, Tim, where, let's go pods there coming through. So
Mr. Steely Dan.
There you go. So it's this climb here is one you want to hold on to and you want to stick with the bunch as you go across. You do get a little bit of a reprieve before you absolutely hit the bottom of the genuine comm, if you want to call it that.
Whilst they take this short reprieve and they start to head up Titans Grove, we'll take a short break and we'll be back before the big Titans Grove comm.
Fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
So, of course, 2 times you. We're about to open our teamwear kit coming up, so you can buy the in-game jersey. So if you finish any of our races, of course, you get that in your garage. And in a couple of weeks' time, we'll put it up on our social channels. You can actually buy that jersey in real life and wear it out on the road. Yeah. And, really comfortable stuff there by 2 times you. So we are about to start this Titans Grove comm. You'll see those numbers in the top left really jumping around. You just don't want to hit the panic station. But look at the size of this group now. You go back 3 minutes. I think we're about maybe half the size for the start. So, and this big climb, but some familiar names, of course, in that front group. There's a great view there, Plamondon. If you are that rider or happen to watch the replay, it's a really tricky point as to know whether to actually try and attack back or go with it.
Yeah, it's often a really hard thing in cycling worldwide that you bridge yourself back across to a group. There's the start of the comm now. So he's just about Plamondon there coming across to bridge through the gap, and he's going to hit a 5% climb where there's going to be some big numbers drop. So heart rate through the roof, very hard to stay bridged into that group. This is where we always see in this event where things are really going to break up, and we've got Glavac there, a usual in our races as well. We've got Pozzolini. I saw JPV still hanging in there. He did race and win the EVR Watopia flat race earlier today. So a double race day for JPV. It'll be interesting, and I'm going to say JPV. I'm going to throw this out there. One of my predictions. His name is John Paul, Tim. So I'll just throw that out there.
Are you guessing?
French-Canadian, JP, there you go.
Okay, no problem.
That's what we're calling affectionately known as Jean-Pierre or Jean-Paul from now on.
Bertuzzi in there from Australia, and of course Berger and the Stewart team from Team Cliff Bar in there, and Alex Side, McQuaid, Ivany and Baillieu. Glavac, of course, off the front. He loves to punch it off the front, Glavac.
Always.
He's really aggressive. really aggressive rider. 6 watts per kilo there off the front for Glavac at the moment. 457 watts. Nice cadence there. RPM 98. So nice little spin and heart rate. Nice little, just a little gap there of a second. Just applying some pressure because, well, why not? You're coming up to com here. Wants to maybe get some com points. 168 beats per minute as they come up here on the Titans Grove circuit.
Yeah, definitely, as they say in the world of cycling, getting it off the front for the sponsors is Glavac. And we've got Mr. Steely Dan coming in.
He's coming in off Twitch.
It's a podium clean sweep for Canada this morning. He's tipping. So I reckon there might be another couple of nationalities.
Righto.
Yeah, look, we've got
Falcon Balls.
Falcon Ball.
He's on Twitch as well. Clean sweep by the Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs, I'm just going to use some intuition. That is, of course, Canada.
Oh, well done.
I'm a genius.
You are unbelievable.
I'm
that is
a genius.
absolutely amazing.
I'm a
You've
genius.
absolutely nailed that. I'll buy you a coffee later on.
There we go. So they're starting to stretch out now, Greg. Look at that. A little mini break there of a gap. I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Side is still front group. Not so sure at the moment. But big they've been really holding over 5, 6, 7 watts per kilo for the last few minutes. Bertuzzi now off the front. Alex Side just sitting in the back. We don't see that all too often. Usually he's up the front, but maybe trying to time that attack.
Yeah, so Liam Bertuzzi, Tim, heading off the front there.
Yep.
He is an under-23 rider, 66 kilos, and punches an FTP of 5.4 watts a kilo. So
Shivers.
be watching him as he comes up the com as well. Bertuzzi, young Australian rider. Not too sure exactly where he's from, but we'll certainly find that out if he stays busting it off the front.
Yeah,
like
we'll try and connect with the young Australian lad. So that's good to see. Just like you getting popped by the young Australian last night, which we all enjoyed watching.
Better for your ego, Tim, than getting absolutely pummeled by a 24-year-old professional cyclist as I come up the epic com.
See?
And right on his wheel, right on the 24-year-old's wheel, is a 16-year-old by the name of Aidan Sinclair.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be sitting in his maths class somewhere in Victoria today. And I got absolutely smashed. So I rolled it home and took second in the second sprint, but nothing to write home on.
Speaking of
there. Small group now, Tim, under 15 riders now as they come up to the top.
Nice little jibe there on Twitch by Jay Hardy. Canada can't even win the Stanley Cup, so no faith in Canada. We're huge ice hockey fans. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I have got a huge, like being 35 degrees on the coast today and 90% humidity, ice hockey is not the biggest sport we've got.
JPV going to take out the comp. Perhaps we'll see the splits as they come through on the top left-hand side. It's always hard to tell, but may roll across the top here. Ivany as well.
Yeah, heart rate 182 from Jean-Pierre, Jean-Paul. So Glavac still hanging in there as well. Ivany, who else we got? Pozzolini, McQuaid still. All these big hitters are still hanging in there. We did lose Snagglepuss. Might have been some technical difficulties there. And then in that second group now, just to give them a quick shout out, Berger, Villarino, Skinny Fat. We've seen Skinny Fat before. So they are way back now at 30 seconds.
VH just dropped off the back. So they're coming down the backside here of the Titans Grove com. So they need to hang in there. Then it starts to kick and roll a little bit. Some little mini attacks. We've seen that before.
So
Stewart Team Clip Bar.
These guys, Tim, are just the second group that are going to bridge back 20 seconds. And we're rolling with the aero there. I don't think they're going to come back. So I might just jump back up to that front group. We've got Endo there still smashing it off the front. Ivany took the jersey as he came across.
Have you noticed one thing, or we mentioned it earlier, is I haven't really seen Dallas come to the front. And this is a thing. He's always in that front pack, but he just waits for the right time to. And that's one of the fine arts of racing on Zwift as well, is just basically holding that ego back somewhat and letting the other riders do the work as you come through the important bit, which is of course the last 30 seconds on this course where it just explodes.
Oh yeah, it's going to be on. I'm looking for Amato in that group. He was entered in the race. He usually would hold in, but I can't see him there from the Vision team. He might not have made the start line this morning. But definitely 10 riders now that are going to shoot this one out. This section of the course, Kent, you might be able to run us through a little bit here, but it is quite a tricky little bit if you've got a little bit of info on that.
Yeah, it's the last bit, and after you've come down the main comm, a lot of people, like Tim said, you settle in, you think it's over, and then right here, right now, you just get hit in the face by one last climb. So if you haven't quite recovered, again, it's a very easy way to just drop off the back.
Big numbers.
Yeah, some big numbers here. JP coming off the front. Ivany, 8-9 watts a kilo. They're just peaked over that climb and rolling back down now. Power up being used at the back there just to stay in the group. Oh, you sort of want to keep that power up for the finish
sometimes
line
you just need it.
But you need to use it up. So
yeah, good to see that he's hanging in there. McQuaid now off the front. Group just sort of rolling through, almost taking turns through this little section. You get that sort of bursty, so if you hit your trainer in the hard or you start to panic a little bit, you can really sort of scream through that front of the group and you sort of pop almost a second out the front.
Yeah, and only 11 riders left now, so only one going to miss out on that top 10. So who is that going to be? I would imagine these 11 as they come through the swampy section at the bottom will stay together, and it's about a 3K hit out to the end. But we might see a bit of shooting match going on, Tim, because there is some big TT effort riders in this group. And I would imagine that they're going to try and punch it in the face before they get a sniff of the finish line.
Good to see Scott Vukovic in there as well. I've seen his name before as well. So he's managed to really hang in there, and a highly rated rider in this race. And one to watch. He's in real life, he's about 74 kilos, it says here. And, can hold about 5.4 watts per kilo over 20 minutes. So really solid rider. So maybe one to watch in this final 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. There's some, mate, this is going to be on. I'm really excited, actually, as they come over these little rollers that you need to get out of the saddle, and you've got that slight delay with the technology just to make sure that you're punching it as you roll through these rollers and you don't get spat off the back. But, 7-8 watts a kilo and then back to zero. 7-8 watts a kilo, back to zero. So these 10-second efforts really start to suck the legs of some of these guys.
Have we got Sinclair here in the front group, Greg, or did we lose Sinclair?
He's at school. Aiden is off to, he's in maths class this morning, mate.
It is back to school, isn't it? Of course, here in Australia.
A bit of banter from the young man on Strava too. So
really?
I'm happy to give it back on return serve there. So being the broadcaster, you can serve out a little bit more than what you got at cop. So
that's pretty funny. So back to school for Sinclair, as he always schools you in Zwift.
Yeah, I've only got 22. I finished school 20 years ago, Tim. So he hasn't even been on this planet for that long. So
when you say finish school, of course, you finished it 2 years short.
Someone gave me a certificate and said, don't come back. That was pretty much how school ended for me.
There's the door. There's the door. So, okay, interesting part. So they're coming out of Titans Grove. It starts to flatten out. Then you start to get those games. So 28 seconds back to the second group. That's done and dusted. But probably by the time we finish, it might close up to 15 seconds because often the front group can sort of drop to a much lower watts per kilo. They've sort of done the work early, can afford to sort of sit up, unless there is, of course, an early attack where you don't want to play into the hands of the riders, can push upwards of 1,000 watts if sort of 800 watts is your go.
Yeah, 1,100 watts is going to be the hard sprint here, no doubt about it. Plus. Did see in the race earlier today that Nathan broadcast the New Callis Cup Series, riders pushing 30 seconds off the front to win at 11 watts a kilo. So pretty impressive.
Goodness gracious me. I think that sort of tells me that maybe just need to just sort of work on my sprint game.
Yeah. Righto, so we'll come through the grassy knolls and take the right-hand bend, and we will start to open up to the desert section.
Look at that power.
Shortly.
Look at that power top left, down to mid-200s there. So exactly how they like to do it. They sort of now start to almost fight for the back of the pack rather than fight for the front, which can often come. They start to get that heart rate down. So 165 beats per minute. You want to try and lower that heart rate, maybe increase that cadence. So 60, 70 cadence is probably a little bit low for mine at this part of the course. Maybe spin a bit of that lactate out from the Titans Grove section. Start to work out. We do have a little attack because they're just starting to nap there off the front. Glavac, just a little attack off the front. Maybe not a big one. We don't see any orange lights, but certainly doesn't like to give them a bit of rope. I might be wrong there. 6 watts per kilo. Glavac off the front, starting to gap the group 2 seconds. They probably don't want to let it go much more than 4 as they come through the final sections of the Sand and Sequoia circuit. Yeah, and that second group still sitting at 25 seconds, so no doubt they will not be coming back this evening. But here we go, Glavac with a huge push off the front. He will be able to hold a huge amount of power. But can he hold off some of these sprinters that are going to come There's the
through?
view. There's the view up the road. Nathan managed to grab for us really well there. So JPV off the front of this chasing pack. Glavac off the front. He's now put a number of seconds into the front.
Yeah,
I reckon it looks about 3 seconds in front.
He's a straight time trialist, Tim, so definitely no short
5
sprint
seconds
for Glavac. So he will push this all the way through the finish and say, catch me if you can, ladies and gentlemen, because he has now got a very big gap. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, 4 seconds now to Glavac. So sporting the American flag back to McQuaid in the second group. These guys will start to roll turns probably as they pull him back. I've seen some big gaps closed in the final portions of any sprint race. Here's a little response there by Bertuzzi, 8.1 watts per kilo. Glavac's probably going to get pulled back in here, but they're going to need to respond to Bertuzzi. Ifany and Pozzolini, can they respond? Yeah, but here goes Bertuzzi, Tim, off the front, under 23 Australian. He's got Podsolini not too far back. JP still hanging in there. 7.7 watts a kilo coming through at 120. Look at the heart rate, 191 and climbing north, 482 watts. Here we go. This is going to be on here. Can they catch Glavac as they come through? Glavac still holding now only a 1 second lead. And here comes Bertuzzi. I think he'll just sit up for a second.
He's bridged it.
He's going to punch him in the face as he comes through and has another sprint straight off the front. JP, 8.1 watts a kilo as he closes it down. Glavac just hanging in there now. Look at his heart rate, Tim. 195 beats a minute. Unbelievable from the young man.
Look at this, though. This front group played it beautifully. JPV here. Bertuzzi really tried to lay it down. There's still a ways to go.
One more kick here. He's going to sit up and have one more bash at him.
JPV, they haven't even started this final sprint comp, but JPV there on the purple Tron bike off the front. You've got Glavac there, Bertuzzi, Ivany, and Endo there. So they're strung out. They've started the sprint comp here on the finish. Here comes some of those big numbers that we're used to. We're with F Bird here on the inside left as he goes up. He's playing the feather power up early. Has he gone too early? Big numbers here, 11.5 watts per kilo by Bird. Leferde in there responds with the aero. He's coming up on the outside as well. He's going at 12.1 watts per kilo. Don't know where Dallas is. I think he's done. It looks like Leferdo's going to get it done. He's got at least 1 second back at this stage of the course. I think the job is done, and Leferde, a very well-timed aero power-up, takes the win, I believe.
It's actually Gilbert, Tim. That's his hat-trick of wins in the Cole Sports Warrior League. Luke Gilbert out of Canada. The Canadians did take the top podium step there, and I think Podsolini might have just rolled across for second, but we'll check out the replay when we can.
Leferde bicycles there, of course, with Gilbert. So taking it out, taking it down. Look at that. He comes up just that well-timed attack there on the outside of Bird. And it's 3 from 3 with a really well-timed attack. Look at those numbers, top right, 12 watts per kilo. Didn't see really Dallas there in the finish tonight, and gets it done with 3. That gap's just too big at that stage. Big blue Tron bike, rolling it through, and even just look at that top left, 650 watts, not huge numbers, but enough to get it done. A lot of the damage done potentially in the early part of the course tonight. So good to see some action out there.
Yeah, there it is. Podsolini just holding on for a second there, and Ivany, the Canadians tipped themselves to run 1, 2, 3. They're upset by the American in the middle with Podsolini, and a little bit of learning there, Tim. Just looking back in the pack a little bit, maybe from Bertuzzi, who I've no doubt put a big asterisk against his name. If you're betting on a racehorse, you'd mark him up for the next start, I reckon.
Good. It's a bit of a learning experience, isn't it? So always the more Zwift races you do, the more you learn about timing those attacks, but no doubt a great training effect. And thanks for Kent's help here this morning, or I should say tonight as well. And we will be releasing the broadcast schedule this afternoon, and we are, of course, going to be doing the podcast. The first podcast for Season 2 coming up will drop on iTunes and Spotify later today. So give that a share, give it a like, and look, as I said earlier, if you want to become more involved in these broadcasts, we are looking for plenty of rider talent and plenty of rider information. So reach out to us here on our social media channels, and we can build that library and really start to pump the quality of these broadcasts and give plenty of content out there for supporters and teams.
Absolutely. Let's check it back over to the studio to Nathan, and he will run through some results for us. Thanks, mate.
Well, always awesome to have Greg and Tim and Kent Cross on board with us from Core Sports. They're doing an amazing job putting the event together. Very fast-growing event, obviously, out on the Zwift. It's great to have them on as amazing talent as well as new productions, too, adding a ton of value here. Make sure to follow up with that. They are serious, you guys. If you want to start getting some highlights around your esports teams and what you're up to within the world of Zwift, contact them, and next thing you know, you'll see all types of awesome stuff coming out of that new studio. So very cool to have them on board, and tons of support here at ZCL. So Core Sports, again, over on Facebook is probably the best place to catch them and the DMs that they were talking about. But quick on the results here for the Core Sports Warrior race. Luke Gilbert at 29.05, under 30 minutes for the finish with a 4.3 watts per kilogram average, but it was a 15.6 for 15 seconds that he threw down at 1,247 watts. Absolutely demolishing it on that sprint, the Canadian. Mikey Podsline there, Team X, been commentating on that rider for quite a while, A-plus rider, and from Team Experimental, one of the longest standing teams out on Zwift. Second place for him. RC Ivany coming through for third for WCG. Then it's the Free Bird out of the US of A. 4th place. Mark Dallas Henry, 5th place, followed by Kenta Endo for Team Finns. Alex Side for Team Dropouts. It sounds like that's a little bit more permanent as of now. And getting some top 10s in these bigger races is pretty cool for him. Seeing Jim McQuaid for Team Draft. Nick Glavick able to hold on for 9th after that early attack trying to TT away. And JPV coming through for Clan Knox. Liam Bertozzi, quick shout out to the Australian, coming through in 11th place after that late attack, but then ended up getting swallowed up by the rest of the pack. All right, everybody, that's going to be it for me. I'm Nathan Guerra here at Zwift Community Live. You had, obviously, Koa Sports on board in partnership with the broadcast. For our next broadcast, well, not our next broadcast, but Zwift's next broadcast is tomorrow with the Pro-Am Tour de Zwift. We'll be live tomorrow over on Zwift Live and all of Zwift's own spaces. The next broadcast for us here on Zwift Community Live, we're looking forward to next Tuesday. Make sure to hit those follow buttons as well as turn on your notification bells for notifications for every time that we do go live. You can rewatch the broadcast Facebook, Mixer, Twitch, or YouTube, and follow on your favorite platform. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. That's going to be it for me here. And as always, everybody, ride on.